It's 68, cloudy now at WNDB.
Congressman Ron DeSantis is joining us on the Morning Drive show this morning. He's been sworn into office, and he's here to talk to us about his first few days up in D.C. as our congressman. Congressman DeSantis, thank you so much for your time, and welcome to the Morning Drive show.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for reaching out to us and talking to us. Talk to us about your experience in the first few days up there and as a member of Congress and some of the things that you hope to accomplish.
Well, I'll tell you, when I got up there a couple of days before getting sworn in, it was unlike some other people probably in the past in that I didn't really know what was going to confront us on January 3rd when I got sworn in, because they were still debating a lot of this stuff with the fiscal cliff and some of these other issues that they were able to resolve. And so when I got sworn in on the 3rd, most of the returning members, I mean, they were fatigued and tired because they had been going at it for a while, and just seemed to me that's probably not the way we need to do business going forward. And so I want to make sure that that we start behaving in a way that I think the American people expect, and be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah, and I support that. I mean, to watch what happened in Congress, all these last-minute negotiations after weeks and weeks of talks, only to result in, a kind of piecemeal deal that results in 2% being taken out of my paycheck. I got to tell you, as just a regular citizen, I was not satisfied watching that whole situation go down last week.
And you should have been. I mean, the fact of the matter is, when I started running in February of 2012, compare that time to the day I took office, January 3rd, and the government's taxing, spending, and regulatory policies were dramatically worse, because you have not only the 2% that pretty much all Americans got, you had marginal income tax increases, you had additional spending. Some of this stuff was pork barrel spending that was in that deal. And what a lot of people forget is you have $1 trillion worth of Obamacare taxes that have just started. And so those are going to start hitting people, and that's going to have an effect on the economy. We've had problems over the last 4 years with generating strong economic growth and getting to full employment, and I just don't see how the policies that we're under right now are going to help facilitate the growth that we need.
What's the big conversation occurring this morning is really about taxing and spending. Mitch McConnell was out there saying, the tax debate is over with, and then White House Press Secretary Jay Carney said yesterday, well, we still need the balanced approach, so kind of indicating that more taxes is needed in terms of what the president's view is, but nothing, it seems like, has been focused on spending at all. I mean, would you agree, and do you see anything moving in that whole spending category?
Well, I agree with you entirely. If you look at the fiscal cliff deal, there was over $600 billion in tax hikes, and there was $2 billion in spending cuts, and those were canceled out by increased spending in other areas. So we really haven't cut spending. And the other thing I've learned just being in this town for a couple days is when you hear people like the president say he's already cut spending, he has not actually cut anything. What they do is they draw an imaginary forecast going forward. So if they project the program to grow at 10% and then instead they only grow at 9%, they consider that a 1% cut. Now, you and I would consider that a 9% increase. And so that's the way that Washington operates. And so the first bill I actually voted on was a bill for Hurricane Sandy and the flood insurance. And I think those people should have their claims, and I'm in favor of doing that expenditure. The problem is they just decided to borrow $9.7 billion without reducing expenditures in other areas. And so the approach of people in Congress is to just continue to borrow and continue to spend. What I would have done with the Sandy, I would have looked at some of the things that government does that is not as important as Sandy relief, and I would have pruned that back, and it would have been very easy to do $9.7 billion in a budget of $3.75 trillion. So this is what it's going to take. We just need people to start changing the mindset up there so that it's not always spend and borrow and ask questions later, but actually prioritize and make some tough decisions.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're up there doing that on our behalf here in the congressional district. We're on the phone with Congressman Ron DeSantis in our last moments in our interview here on the Morning Drive show. The gun debate is really hot up in Washington, D.C. Former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords is going to be doing an ABC News Diane Sawyer special today, and she'll outline what she would like to see happen on the gun debate. I mean, it's unbelievable down here in Volusia County, the response I mean, I go into the gun shop, I talk to people, everyone is talking about it. What are your thoughts on the idea of gun control in the wake of Sandy Hook?
Well, it strikes me that you have this guy who is clearly a sociopath goes in there and really commits one of the worst crimes that I can ever remember reading or hearing about. And I think that there's an understandable desire to do something. The problem I have is if you look at people like Dianne Feinstein, what they're proposing has no relation to what that guy did. And basically, she wants to go out and put a lot of burdens on law-abiding citizens. So if you already lawfully possess certain firearms, you got to go in and get fingerprinted or register. You know, we're treating gun owners as if they're some type of second-class citizen, or almost like you would treat a sex offender when they go in and have to do these things. And that's just a non-starter with me. I mean, people, if you're going to try to address the problem of some sociopath, I think there are ways you can try to do that. But to just burden law-abiding citizens, to me, is not the way to go. So I think if what we're hearing in the press, and there's actually not been a bill, I don't believe, but a lot of that stuff, I think you'll see even some Democrats balk at these big, broad programs that put a lot of burdens on law-abiding citizens, but don't really do anything to keep somebody like this gentleman in Connecticut from getting done. And look, a lot of these questions are tough. I mean, you hear a lot about mental health, and I agree. You know, mental health's important, but man, it's very difficult to pinpoint somebody who may act weird, but I don't think he had committed any crimes before this. And so, you know, you have kids who are 20, 22 who kind of act weird like that, but there are billions of those people throughout our society, and I think it's been very difficult even for experts to pick out, hey, this guy's going to be violent, this guy's not. They tend to have a poor record of it. So, you know, so I think that probably you see overreaction and you see people who already wanted to do some of these policies using this as an ability to do it. So I think it's going to be tough for them to probably get that. And look, I believe citizens have a right, the law-abiding citizens own firearms. I think that if you have a criminal background or mental problems, you know, I would definitely support means to keep a weapon out of your hands.
Right, and the problem here locally is that we have to decide, and you may have heard the interview with the lady who's running for school district here, Dr. Kathy Williams. You know, we have to decide if we want to spend millions of dollars in tax money for schools that we don't have to, you know, put cops or whatever in the elementary schools to protect kids. So the question is, you know, do we take these extraordinary actions for the very rare instances and spend millions of dollars to do so, or do we kind of just have faith that that won't happen again and leave it as is? And it puts, you know, educators in a tough position, parents in a tough position, and elected officials in a tough position. It's kind of really a catch-22.
Yeah, and my view would be I want local folks to be making those decisions. There have been some talk that the federal government should maybe take this over, and I think that'd probably be a mistake. I mean, I think there are reasonable positions on either side in terms of the amount of security you want in a school, given the environment, given the neighborhood or whatever. And I think those are best left to local and state folks rather than have people in Washington, D.C. ordering you what to do.
Congressman Ron DeSantis, representing our congressional district, talking to us about his first few days up in Washington, D.C. We appreciate you giving us the rundown about what you plan to accomplish out there and talking to us about the hot issues. And we look forward to talking to you throughout your term here on the Morning Drive Show on WNDB in Daytona Beach.
Anytime. Thanks.
Thank you for your time. It's 8:02 at WNDB. We ran along with the interview there with Congressman Ron DeSantis, so we're going to go direct.